welcome back to a very, very exciting episode this week. We have the beautiful Solé, our guest this week. Hi, Solé. How are you?
Hello, Mary. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing actually, I was doing a little rough because I woke up with a cold a few days ago and I thought I woke up feeling okay today. And then I started moving around and I was like, oh, no, no, no. I'm still a bit sinusy, which maybe you can hear, but also just feeling a little bit low. But you and I had a little chat before we started recording and I was like, oh no, this is actually what I need. This is the energy that I need today. I'm going to forget about my cold. I'm going to forget about how I'm feeling because there's going to be some good vibes together here and I'm really excited for that.
So true. That's one of the things that my dad would always say when I was sick is like, you should get up and do something, like go to the gym or
Yes.
something, exactly what you don't want to do, which always
Yeah.
somehow ends up often being the medicine. So I'm glad I could be that for you today.
It really is the medicine. That's something I say anytime I'm dealing with like pain or sickness is like, yes, you need rest, but sometimes if you stay in rest too long, you only feel that sickness or that pain.
Totally.
So you
Yeah.
kind of got to get out, move around, even if it is like having a conversation like we're doing. So this feels very aligned, especially because you are a healer. You're a Reiki healer. So I would love to just, for those who don't know about Reiki, because I think a lot of people maybe have heard the word, the term, and have no
Mhm.
concept what that means. Why don't you give us a little background of what that means to you?
Sure, yeah. So, for people who have never heard of it and don't have any understanding of it, I like to liken it to acupuncture because most people have some form of understanding of acupuncture, which is obviously that the needles themselves are not anything special or, they have no magical powers. They're simply awakening the body's ability to heal itself and the energetic channels of the body, which ultimately life force energy and the body's ability to heal itself is what heals itself. And so Reiki is kind of one step from that, being that I sort of am the needles, so to speak. My hands are
Mm.
the acupuncture needles, and it is my work to hold the container for a high vibrational experience wherein you can sort of journey through your own healing process. The process itself is expedited in our sessions. And then the idea being that we get to kind of the root of the issue. I know a lot of Western medicine, and what I struggle with in Western medicine is that it often is just kind of addresses the symptoms. It's more of kind of a
Hmm.
band-aid. You're not actually really looking at like what's really causing something. Wherein energy work or Reiki or anything kind of in the field of really Eastern philosophy generally, when it comes to medicine, is let's look at what the cause is. Let's get to the root cause versus just addressing the symptoms. So that's what we do in Reiki. We often sit and chat first just to kind of process things, and any number of things can come up in just the sort of intentional conversation around what we're looking at. And that can be anything. It can be anything from physical ailment. I've addressed so many different physical issues to emotional
Hmm.
issues to spiritual issues. It's the kind of the whole gamut of what people come to me for. Oftentimes when they've gone to Western medicine and kind of exhausted, that they just can't figure out what something is, because again, they're not looking at the root of what something is. They're not really actively trying to find the cause. It's more just how can we quiet down the symptoms. So
Hmm.
they come to me as a way of kind of uprooting what's really going on to address the real cause, and then the symptom goes away. So that's, it's my sessions are usually about an hour and a half. First we chat, then I lead you kind of through a journey, essentially a deep meditation to kind of address what's happening. And as that happens, I'm getting kind of an energetic read. So by the end of it, I can give you kind of a read on what kind of comes through, what's in your energy field around what
Mm.
we're looking at.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think when I've had Reiki before in my 20s, so it's been now that I realize how old I am. I'm like, it's been a few years.
Okay.
I did it a few years ago. I would actually love to do it again because I found it was super beneficial for me. I deal with chronic migraines that I got
Okay.
from post concussion syndrome. So that was very much
Wow.
my experiences. Western medicine was
Yeah.
just a band-aid solution of here's
Yeah.
medication to take every day to deal with the pain, but let's not
Totally.
understand where the pain's coming from.
Yeah.
Is it now tied to an emotional pain or an emotional
Yeah.
trauma? And I think that's something that when I was venturing into Reiki and I found like a really great Reiki healer, that was really brought to my attention that a lot of our physical pain or what we're seeing as physical symptoms is very intertwined with something emotionally or maybe some trauma that we've gone through that we really haven't acknowledged or taken the time or even given space to look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why, and kind of journeying then into the conversation around self-love, it's so important that we address our stuff. I think a major part of self-love is
Hmm.
also just accountability over your own experience and accountability even to like what's happened to you. Like it's not always fun to have to look at what's happened to you, and it's
Yeah.
not, it's there's a sort of fine line between taking accountability for something that has been done to you or something that's happened to you, but the key is to take accountability for your own healing. And that's a huge
Hmm.
piece of Reiki or energy work, is that it's us in this together, right? They have to be equally as committed to their own healing as I am to being the container for their healing, right? And I think that's the difference with Western medicine. Of course, there's not that level of accountability. They can go in, they put
Hmm.
the band-aid over it, boom, all is well. But there's not that like, okay, we're really both going to look here, like what's stuck, what's really
Yeah.
causing the manifestation of the problem.
Yeah, it does. And it takes courage. I think that's one
Yeah.
big thing that is often overlooked in self love and like any healing journey of any level is you have to be courageous in order to face these things head on because it's going to get a bit sticky. It's going to get a
Yeah.
bit uncomfortable. And finding someone you trust to hold space and share that with you is such a vital aspect of being committed to that journey. Like you said, showing up, doing the work, and sitting in it. And I think a lot of people, maybe in the past couple of years, because of obviously the world and how things have changed, have been sitting in our emotions a bit more. We've been
Mhm.
more complacent in some ways because of how slow the world was moving at one point, and so some things became more apparent to us of things we needed to work on within ourselves. And I think I've seen over the past year a lot of people feeling like, okay, now it's time to get out of this rut that maybe I got in during the pandemic, or I started to approach things that I was ignoring and now I'm ready. And it can feel really scary to take that first step in healing and
Yeah.
take that first step and asking for support from someone. And I think someone like yourself is such a great person to connect with in terms of getting that help. So for someone who's in that place, like I'm saying this as someone who's been there on and off throughout my life of feeling stuck and like how do I get to the next step of actually of addressing what I need to, what would you recommend to people to just start making some motions and some movements?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you're kind of alluding to, having a guide of some sort can be helpful on so many levels. To be honest, I really feel like my mother was that for me. She
Mm.
just normalized all of it, as she was a therapist professionally, but also a Reiki master by trade, and practiced some, but if nothing
Mhm.
else, kind of gave me the consciousness around it. And so to have someone who would witness me in all of my humanity and understand it and allow me to move through things and the intensity of emotions, albeit temporarily, but just to hold that space and hold
Mhm.
that container and hold my hand along that journey just made such a difference for me. And so a guide obviously is an amazing resource along the path, because it just makes you feel like you're not alone on a kind of a solo journey. The healing journey is quite solo,
Yeah.
it's your own deal, right? um but it's also someone to normalize the stuff, because it's like, it's the whole spectrum of the human experience that comes forward on the healing journey. So to have someone who can just kind of normalize it and make it all okay and understand really helps. But
Yeah.
aside from that, to me, the other piece has been just major meditation for me, to be honest, just the
Mm.
willingness to go inside of myself. And some days I find the absolute light of heaven, and other days I find the inner war that still exists in
Yeah.
various ways, and ways that I am against myself. And so it is all of it again, when you go into your inner space. But to me, meditation is such a key on the healing journey, because it requires that sort of disconnection from the external, and then you just go into your inner space, and it's uncontrollable, and you don't necessarily know what's going to happen when you sit down, albeit you can sometimes
Mhm.
guide it. But all in all, it's going to be its own thing. And so there's a sense of surrender to your own inner process when you sit down in meditation. And that's been probably my best tool of all along my path, is that willingness to sit in stillness with myself and to navigate my inner reality and my inner journey and meet all of my pieces multidimensionally. So there's definitely many avenues that people can take. Any stillness practice, ultimately, be it yoga or
Mhm.
other energy work practices or breath work or meditation. Any tools that invite you into yourself, to me, are just such major keys on the healing journey for sure.
Oh, I love that. I really love that you encourage like a variety of different techniques or pathways to being still, because I think there's so much conversation in the past couple of years of like what the right thing is in terms of meditation, like whether it's
Yeah.
guided meditation, it's breath work, or it's doing cold plunges, like all these different things are super beneficial, but they're not going to work for everyone. And I know I've
Right.
tried a lot of them myself, and some things work in certain seasons and other things don't, but
Mhm.
I think the joy, I almost want to say the joy of getting to know yourself is trying these different things, is exploring, is it yoga? Is it truly just meditation, sitting with myself and recentering? Is it guided meditation or breath work? Something that can allow you to actually feel more connected to yourself. And again, similar to what you're saying, is like validate those feelings of
Yeah.
whatever's going on inside, whether it is bliss or it's that friction that you've been dealing with, but knowing that there is no right or wrong path to getting there, and there's no right or wrong emotion when you've arrived either.
Totally. Totally. It really does help sort of loosen the attachment to right and wrong and good and bad, because you realize
Mm,
most of all of it exists within you on some level, right? And so
yes.
instead of like judging your inner space and where you are on any given day as good or bad, you just meet it, and that's kind of one of the major themes of yoga, is meeting yourself where you are. You meet yourself where you are every time on your mat, even when you think you should be quote unquote better this day than you were the day before, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't even do the poses you were doing yesterday in your
Yes.
mind. You're questioning everything. But it's because healing is, and even progress is not linear. It's not like a linear upward always journey. Sometimes it's up and then way down and then up a little bit back up and then baseline. It's all over the place. And once you just allow for that to be the case, you really loosen your grip on it needing to look a certain way, or that it has to be, that upward trajectory, or anything that the mind decides it needs to be, these shoulds that we place all over our lives. When you just loosen some of that, you realize that life is always going to be what it is. And so there's this surrender and yielding to life as it is versus how you think it should be.
Mm, that is so big, is ha- the idea of should. And I've been hearing this a lot, like through my personal coach, through things I've been getting on TikTok. So I'm like, my For You page is really, it's really tailored to me right now, but it's this whole concept of should. We should be doing this, or I should be better, or my life should be at this point. And by putting that word and giving it so much power, we're actually putting constructs and limitations on our own experience in our own life. So when I think of, I'm 32, I should be at X, Y, and Z point at 32.
Yeah.
Why do I have to have these expectations or limitations of where I should be when I'm not allowing life to take me where I'm meant to be, or to find a free flowing energy in terms of my lived experience through whatever may happen? Because as we know, majority of our life is out of our control. There's a lot
Totally.
of things that happen that we can do nothing about other than how we react and how we move through it. And that whole concept of the black and white and there's right and wrong, it really does, at least I know for myself, hold me back from
Yeah.
experiencing what life really has to offer, and also like what growth is available to me, because it's almost like I'm afraid of getting into that gray zone of maybe mixing right and wrong together and seeing what that feels like.
Totally. I so understand. And I think that's really a key, because really ultimately, and that's what a stillness practice does, is it brings you down from the mind, right? And it is only in the mind where the should lives, because other than that, life just is what it is. There's no shoulds
Mm.
in any other compartment of
Hmm.
life except for what's happening in your mind. So learning how to kind of disidentify with thought and like notice when you're shoulding yourself and like clearing some of that out, you know, it
Yeah,
saves a
no
lot
more
of time and
shoulds.
energy. Exactly.
We are cutting
Yeah,
that out of our vocabulary. Definitely
totally.
remainder of 2023, but 100% in 2024. No more shoulds, no more
Yeah,
expectations. And yeah, I think you, like you said, is when you get out of the mind is when there's a lot of magic and beauty that happens. And it
totally.
it does take a while to get there. It's
Yeah.
not something that like your first meditation you're going to
No,
arrive.
no. Yeah. No, for sure. It does take
It
time.
would
And
be
I think
great
that's one
if we
of the,
did.
Yeah, it would be wonderful. But I think that's one of the misconceptions of meditation is, and I hear all the time as a meditation teacher, people say they can't meditate. And it's because they'll sit down for 10 minutes and all they've done is think. And they're like, I can't do it. Where to me, I'm like, you literally did it. Good job. You practiced, that's amazing. And as someone who's meditated for a very long time, I have still sessions where I sit down and I think the whole time. I may find pauses between thoughts or at least the recognition that I'm thinking the whole time today, and that's okay. But yeah, I think people think that's going to take just a couple of sits to reach ultimate nirvana. And the truth is, it takes usually a little bit longer. Because
Hmm.
again, when you sit with your inner space, it's going to take you through the inner journey and it's going to unveil all of the ways that you're not yourself. It's going to unveil all of the things that keep you back from your ultimate greatness, right? It's like, your
Yeah.
inner space is just waiting for you to remember the ultimate experience of who you are. But it's a
Hmm.
journey. It's a journey into yourself. Meditation is a journey into yourself. And so, while over time you start to realize, wow, I do think a lot. Okay, maybe I can slow some of that down, take a little pause between thought. But that takes time. The mind is so conditioned to think, think, think. We have some ridiculous thousand number of thoughts each day because that's what the
Yeah.
mind does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mind is something else. And I also heard recently, this is a bit of a tangent, but I heard that some people don't have an internal monologue. Like some people just aren't constantly chatting in their mind. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you live? I would love that. I'm like, my brain from the second I wake up to the moment I fall asleep, and then even in my dreams, like I remember my dreams so intently, even if they don't feel like a vivid storytelling dream, just like, oh, whatever dream. I'm like, oh, I remember so many details and conversations I had in my dreams. I'm like, my brain and my mind really needs to settle. And I'm like, maybe the people who don't have the inner monologue are good at meditation. Like maybe they've already found something.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too. And I guess I too share that with you that I can't even like totally understand what that means. Cause like I don't, it doesn't register. I don't know how. Is it
Yeah.
just pure silence then? And they just sort of move through life with pure silence and only think when necessary? Like, yeah, it's really interesting. It would be interesting to talk to someone who says that they don't have one.
Yeah, I would love to be like transplanted into someone else's mind just for a day, just to experience that. Like you said, is it only when something happens that they start having a voice or like having a conversation or thinking? I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
it's such an interesting thing. And again, it goes back to how we're so different. Like
Yeah.
everyone
Yes.
is truly their own person. And I know we were
Absolutely.
all told this from like probably in kindergarten onward is like you're unique and you're special in your own way. And I think we've lost a lot of that as we've aged. Obviously, there's, in our younger years and teenage years, you want to fit in, you want to be cool, you want to, not stand out because it feels uncomfortable when you stand out. And then I think even the implications of social media, as much as, yes, there's a lot of different content creators and storytellers, a lot of people are starting to kind of this whole concept of niching down and becoming similar in their category is we're not allowing people to be multifaceted anymore. And I think that
Mm.
that's the beauty in our human experiences. Like you said, there's so many different parts of us that we can't just be one thing or expect one result if we do the exact same thing that other people did. And there's a lot of grace that has to come with it because we want immediate satisfaction like we get from the internet and social media. We
Yeah.
want that like, okay, I did the meditation, it happened. Now what? Like I
Yeah.
my whole life is going to be working out. And I know you deal with a lot of manifestation. You talk a lot about manifestation. I've definitely dabbled in manifestation. It's something that I'm really trying to, I guess, use my energy towards more. But I would love to hear your personal experience with manifestation because, from what I gather, you're definitely on like a manifestation journey, and like where you're at in your life is a result of your manifesting.
Yeah, I would say that. One thing that I have actually learned about a little bit more recently is the law of assumption versus the law of attraction. And so the law of
Mm,
assumption is all about your energy. It's all about maintaining the energy of where you want to be and what life experience you want to live out. And so it's sort of like, I mean, it kind of like, and I don't love this term, but, or phrase of like faking it till you make it, but
yes.
in the sense of, what you desire is already yours. Now, for
Hmm.
me, the key is that we have to recognize that sometimes what we desire is not actually like our highest path, right? That sometimes our humanity desires something or our ego desires something, and it might not be like the highest expression of what our life can bring us. There's always more, right? That life can bring. So there's this level
Mhm.
of holding the experience of your highest desire without attaching it to looking a certain way. You and I even were chatting before we started about my being sort of a digital nomad these days. And,
Mhm.
um, that wasn't necessarily that I sat down and manifested. I wasn't like, yes, I definitely want to not have my own place. I want to be able to travel and be totally free. But it was a result of my sort of innate desire to have freedom and to be able
Mm.
to explore the world and myself sort of simultaneously, and the energetics of my kind of wanting to be able to have that sort of freedom ultimately. So
Mhm.
the key to me when it comes to manifesting is all about your energy and finding the experience of what you want, because while it may not manifest exactly how you think it should manifest, right, there's the
Yeah.
should,
Yeah.
it always comes in better than that. It always comes in to match the highest caliber of that energetic desire. And so you have to kind of trust the unfolding just as much as you trust your own desires and trust your ability to hold the even gratitude of something
Mhm.
before it arrives. Um, so I think we're always kind of doing that, right? The truth is we're always doing it. So I think the mastery is to be aware and conscious that we're always doing that. We're always either sort of in the energetics of the say the wanting or the lack even, which is a place we also manifest from and want to be aware of,
Mhm.
because manifesting from lack is not obviously the highest energetic possibility.
No.
So I think, to me, I guess that's the other piece of it. For me, it's more of just I've really been kind of mindful of integrating it into my life. That
Mm.
when I notice myself thinking of worrying about something or going into the rabbit hole of what could happen if X, Y, and Z, or maybe I'm still finding my footing financially or whatever seasons of my life that I've gone through, rather than like letting that take me into like the lack or
Yeah.
scarcity mindset. It's like, okay, what this isn't what feels great to me, so what would feel great to me, and switching to the higher vibrational timeline and higher vibrational possibility versus letting yourself kind of spiral into
Yeah.
like the fear
Yeah.
ultimately.
No, and I think that aspect of being open to what the manifestation will bring, like, you can't have your eyes fixed on, like, this one ideal of what you're manifesting, because, again, it's that
Totally.
should. It should be this. It should happen this way, and it should look like this, and when we allow more movement and freedom and life to carry us, that's again when the beauty and magic happens. And that I think is actually like the secret sauce to manifesting. Is,
Yeah.
I think, we talk about vision boards, and I love a vision board because I'm a very visual person. But when
Yeah.
you put on a vision board, like, my house has to be, a white house with black shutters, like, it has to be it, then you're not
Hmm.
allowing yourself to even look at a white house with green shutters. Like, that's like the smallest
Totally.
difference I'm going to use as an hopefully this explains things, but you're not allowing
Yeah.
yourself to look at like any house that doesn't have those black shutters. And then suddenly you're missing all these opportunities or these other homes that you could have had that, yeah, maybe had the green shutters, but you were able to paint them or you could have
Yeah.
changed them. But that house would have been the home that your body was looking for, your soul was looking for. And again, that should really holds us back in so many
Yes.
different areas of our life. And then by not giving manifestation like the freedom to
Yeah.
arrive at a feeling, and I think that's how I've been reworking my manifestation personally, is the feeling I want rather than
Hmm.
the physical being, the surroundings, the tangible objects. Is what feeling do I really want? What am I manifesting for my emotional state? Because I think so much of life, whether we have financial security or we don't, or we have the objects that we want or not, or the career that we've been chasing, is there's a lot of feeling insecure in that and not feeling
Hmm.
like we have arrived. And we're not
Yes.
paying attention to how we feel in that moment and feeling, like you said, gratitude, gratitude for
Yeah.
the journey of whatever arrival may be, because it's not going to look like what we think it'll look like. So finding gratitude, finding joy in the valleys as much as we find the joy in the highs, and really just trying to take that, I guess, step by step. And I think, again, the stillness of being within yourself and reconnecting with your energy goes hand in hand with allowing your manifestation to really grow and evolve.
Yeah. I so agree with everything you've just said. And, a key for me is also remembering that on some level, you never really arrive. Like you might get certain
Yeah.
things and have certain happenings, but
Yeah.
the journey is the whole thing, right? The journey is the whole entire
It
thing. And so
is.
there is, again, that kind of ultimate faith in your path and in your life and in yourself and in your journey and whatever that looks like and however it goes. And that, sometimes even you say you want to be a millionaire, what life will first do is take you through the very bottom of the barrel financially
Yeah.
so that you can reconfigure your relationship to money as
Yes.
as the first step to being a millionaire. And so you call this desire of wanting to be financially free, and suddenly you're like as
You're like, I'm
financially
not
uncomfortable
free.
as I mean, quite the opposite. But it's the
Yes.
journey, right? That's the beauty of the journey, is it is a co-creation. There's higher forces at play, and we are co-creating with those
Mm,
higher forces. If they're just the forces of the universe and the forces that the glue that keeps life together, whatever it is, there are other things at play. And so yes, we hold our energetic possibility, and then we trust that there are things being drawn to us and kept away from us, and in all directions and in all ways that are going to facilitate. Life really does want us to vibrate higher. Life, the law of the universe is that everything is trying to vibrate higher. We keep it lower with fear and with scarcity and with lack, but
yes.
everything, the nature of life is to just vibrate higher. And so as long as your desires align with the higher vibrational timeline, you're always going to be edging in that direction. Again, it might mean you have to collapse this total part of yourself that keeps you in fear or in lack. And maybe
Hmm.
that's a relationship, or maybe it's a job, or, something has to go. We have these tower moments, so to speak, where
Yeah.
everything that cannot come with you to your next level have to release. And it feels like, everything's collapsing. And in some way it is, because only you, the highest version of you, can go to the next level. So
Mm,
again, it's not just this like sweet, like rainbow and butterfly, like
yeah.
upward trajectory on the path, but all of that is much of the point. The devastating tower moments are just as pivotal on the path as are the peak, like best moments of your life. It's all a part of it. So again, I think that's what we were talking about, going back to like meditation and just learning how to meet yourself in that way, is like,
Hmm.
yeah, the peak experiences feel amazing and the bottom of the barrel experiences not so much. But when you look objectively, they were both keys, both
Yeah.
absolutely necessary places on your path for you to continue to become who you're here to be, and to develop your gifts and your message and everything else along the journey.
Yeah. I think that's so beautiful too, because it is so easy to get caught up in like the arrival or
Yeah,
this succeeding at whatever it is, whether it's getting that promotion, having that relationship, getting a new car. So many of these things is we hyper focus on those things as the determinant of our success, or the
yes,
determinant of achieving, what we've manifested or what we've set out for. And there's so much that's learned in the darker days and the harder
yeah,
times that really
yeah,
sets us up for those high moments. And if we can't recognize it when we're going through the struggles, those good moments actually won't feel quite as good. They're not going to feel
yeah,
as, rewarding of, I trusted the process. I connected with myself. I leaned into the unknown, whatever it may be. It's not going to feel as beautiful, I think, and as
yeah,
energetic. Like the emotions and the energy you receive within that, is it's just not going to be the same. And that's a hard thing to swallow also in our just like day and age of like wanting things right away and not wanting the
yeah,
pain. But like that old
yeah,
saying, like pain no gain. I'm like, I hate to say that, but
yeah,
sometimes it's true. We're like growing pains. Like when we were
for sure.
growing, our legs like literally hurt. Our legs
Yeah,
were in pain when we got taller. I don't know why mine hurt, because I'm only 5'2". So I'm like, I barely grew. I don't know why my legs were hurting in elementary school. But for the people who like really grow, I'm like, yeah, your like joints, your body hurts because you're growing. And that's a part of the growth, is
yeah,
knowing that sometimes when it hurts or it feels really full of friction or sticky, that means you're growing, and there's beauty
yeah.
within that.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, what I really believe is it's not like ultimately, it's not what you do, it's who you become, right? It's who you are. And
Mm,
I think what we're seeing now is that there have been people who say made kind of like the ultimate success celebrity wise, right? They like, I won't name names, but there were people who very
yeah.
young reached very high levels of success, say in a singing career. And now they're just kind of like, not totally connected to themselves. You know, you look at
Yeah.
some certain folks who just have totally seems kind of lost themselves because it's like they reached that pinnacle that society says this is the pinnacle, but they hadn't even been able to develop themselves at all. And so they just sort of
Yeah.
were like totally identified by being this figure in society that now and later in life they have to kind of they don't even know who they are because they've been
Mhm.
only defined by that image. So
It's
again,
true.
it's like, and not to take away from their success because they reached great success, but it's unfortunate when you see them later in life just kind of disheveled and lost because they never figured out who they were. They didn't sort of bypass the journey trying to identify as a role versus who they
Yeah.
actually are.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to what we said at the beginning is having people and spaces to hold you in
Yeah.
that journey, to either,
Yeah.
you know, encourage that type of realization, conversation, people that can guide you, people that can validate your emotions so that you're not feeling lost within your own self and questioning why you're feeling that way. And I think that's a lot of what can help us all is actually the community and the support from others. And
Yeah.
that's definitely, I can see that's a gift that you have is to really do that for other people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really believe
Yeah.
it was bestowed upon me from my mom because she was so amazing in that way. And the truth is that the more that you create and cultivate that within yourself, the more you are able to offer it to others. And whether it's your children or just your
Mhm.
friends or whatever, anybody even that comes around you, it's like, I feel like authenticity and compassion and
Yeah.
understanding is just, it's like contagious, right? When you can hold that
It
energetic
really
space,
is.
other people come around you and they just feel like they can actually be themselves. And it's really nice to be around people who feel that way. You don't have to perform. You don't even have to be on all the time. You can just be
Mhm.
where you are and be met there with the same love of whether you're like having a great day or not so much. And all of it's the same. You're still welcome here. That was the energy I always got from my mom. It was like, you're welcome here and
Mm.
like your whole spectrum.
Ugh, well, it definitely comes to you very easily, I would say, because you saw it example, but
Yeah.
you also committed to continuing that type of love and welcomeness. So I definitely feel that. And I mean, we're just talking over the internet. So if I can feel it through the internet, I know that it's even more apparent in real life, which I think is
Thank you.
amazing. And I know a lot of our community members, I'm assuming and I'm hoping, can feel that through this recording as well. And we'll definitely want to follow along with what you're doing, maybe, connect with you and learn from you one on one. Where can everyone find you on the internet?
Yeah, all of my handles, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram are at with love Solé, WITHLOVESOLE. My website is also with love Solé, where you can learn a little bit more about my work and book sessions with me if you're interested in the one-on-one work. But yeah, I try to kind of take people along my journey a little bit more in depth on my YouTube channel, which is something I've been building more this year. But my
Hmm.
platform at this moment is Twitter or X, I guess, whatever, whatever
Oh,
we're calling it these
yeah.
days.
Don't worry. I still call it Twitter. I'm like,
Okay, good.
it's just going to be Twitter until it's no more, basically, in my mind.
That's right.
But no, I love your YouTube as well. I've been watching some of your YouTube videos, and it's so great to see that type of content, like just having you really explain and explore. And I'm sure that's just a snapshot of what a session with you would look like. So for anyone who is on the fence or is curious, I'll make sure that we link everything in the show notes below so you can connect with Solé on your platform of choice and hopefully have a session. So, thank you so much again for this wonderful chat and your time and just bringing this beautiful energy not only to the conversation but also to the podcast.
My absolute pleasure, Mary. Thank you for having me. And thank you too for what you do. You know, just looking at your website, it just felt like so normalized and just what you're calling forward in the world.
Mm.
And I think it's so, so important now than ever for women in particular to just have that safe space again, to just be who they are. And I feel like you absolutely hold that container as well. So thank you all the same.
Oh, thank you. This has been such a beautiful conversation.
For sure. Absolutely.